The Galactic Military Academy's training dome hummed with anticipation as species from across 7 star systems gathered to witness what they assumed would be entertainment. In the center of the crystalline arena, human cadet Marcus Chen stood, alone, his standard-issue combat suit looking primitive compared to the advanced exoskeletons and bioenhancements of his alien counterparts. Commander Vexthul, a towering Zephyrian with chitinous armor and 4 razor-sharp arms, addressed the assembled crowd through the dome's translation matrix. Today we demonstrate why the Terran species remains confined to probationary status in our alliance. Their cadet will face 3 of our finest warriors in succession, without rest or resupply. Murmurs of amusement rippled through the audience. The Zephyrians were known throughout the galaxy as apex predators, their homeworld a death trap of acid rain and carnivorous flora. The Korthak representatives clicked their mandibles in approval. Their species had evolved from hive-minded hunters who could track prey across continents. Even the usually diplomatic ethereal collective's representatives pulsed with amused energy patterns. Marcus remained motionless, his breathing steady as he observed his opponents. The first was Razorfang Kethmore, a Zephyrian whose combat record included 17 interspecies tournament victories. The second, Hivemind operative Zakth from the Korthak Dominion, whose neural link allowed him to access the collective combat experience of millions of his kind. The third, energy dancer Lumara from the Ethereal Collective, who could manipulate matter at the molecular level. Human. Commander Vexthul's voice dripped with condescension. You may yield now and spare yourself the pain. We understand your species is fragile. Marcus finally spoke, his voice carrying clearly through the dome's acoustics. I appreciate the concern, Commander, but I think there's been a misunderstanding. Oh? Vexthul's forearms spread wide in mock curiosity. Enlighten us, primitive. Marcus turned slowly, his gaze sweeping across the assembled aliens. When he spoke again, his voice had changed. Gone was the respectful cadet's tone, replaced by something that made several species' threat detection organs twitch involuntarily. You see this as a demonstration of human weakness. I see it as a learning opportunity for all of you. The first combat round began with Razorfang Kethmore charging forward, his bio-enhanced muscles propelling him at speeds that should have been impossible to track. His razor-sharp claws extended, aiming for what appeared to be a simple disabling strike. Marcus moved. It wasn't the fluid grace of the ethereals or the calculated precision of the Korthak. It was something else entirely. Controlled, violence that seemed to bend the laws of physics through sheer determination. He sidestepped the charge at the last possible millisecond, grabbed Kethmore's extended arm, and used the alien's own momentum to send him crashing into the dome wall with enough force to crack the reinforced crystal. The audience fell silent. Kethmore struggled to his feet, confusion replacing confidence. In all his victories, no opponent had ever simply ignored his superior speed and strength. He attacked again, this time with the calculated fury of his species' apex predator instincts. Marcus caught his claws mid-strike. The human's muscles strained against the alien's bio-enhanced strength, veins standing out on his forearms. For a moment, they were locked in a test of pure physical power, a test that should have been impossible for the smaller, seemingly weaker human to win. But Marcus wasn't trying to overpower his opponent. He was studying him. Your species evolved as ambush predators, Marcus said conversationally, even as Kethmore's other arms lashed out at him. He deflected them with movements that seemed almost lazy. Lightning-fast attacks overwhelming initial force, then retreat if the prey survives. But what happens when the prey doesn't run? Marcus suddenly released Kethmore's claws and stepped inside his guard. What followed was a demonstration of human close-quarters combat that had the alien warrior unconscious on the ground in under 10 seconds. The second opponent, Zakth, approached more cautiously. His hive mind connection allowed him to access the combat knowledge of millions, and every piece of data suggested the human should be easy prey. Yet something in Marcus's stance, the way he held his head, sent instinctive alarm signals through the collective consciousness. Your turn, Marcus said simply. Zack attacked with perfect technique, drawing upon the accumulated fighting knowledge of his entire species. Every strike was precisely calculated, every movement optimized through countless generations of warfare. Marcus fought back like a human. There was no accessing databases of combat knowledge, no hive mind support, no bioenhancements. Just individual creativity, adaptability, and something that made the Korthak's collective consciousness recoil in confusion, the ability to do something completely illogical that somehow worked perfectly. When Marcus feinted left, then somehow turned it into a spinning attack from the right, Zack's enhanced reflexes couldn't compensate for something that defied all logical combat parameters. When the human grabbed a handful of arena sand and threw it directly into his opponent's compound eyes, a tactic no civilized species would use, the collective wisdom of the Korthak had no response. Zack joined his predecessor on the ground. Energy dancer Lumara approached with visible reluctance. Her molecular manipulation abilities made her nearly untouchable. She could phase through attacks, reshape matter to form weapons, even alter the local atmosphere. Against a primitive human, she should have been absolutely invincible. Marcus smiled for the first time since entering the arena. "Last one," he said, and something in his tone made Lumara's energy form flicker with uncertainty. The fight that followed redefined the assembled aliens' understanding of impossibility. Every time Lumara phased to avoid an attack, Marcus was somehow already moving to where she would rematerialize. When she created molecular weapons from thin air, he found ways to turn them against her, or simply ignored them entirely, accepting wounds that should have incapacitated him, but somehow didn't slow him down. It was Lumara who finally understood what she was witnessing. "You're not fighting us," she whispered, her energy form pulsing with something approaching terror. "You're hunting us." Marcus nodded appreciatively. "Very good. Your species is more perceptive than the others." The realization swept through the dome like a wave. These weren't demonstrations of combat technique or physical superiority. They were watching a predator species at work, and they had just realized they were the prey. Commander Vexthol's voice, when it finally came, lacked all its earlier confidence. "Human, what are you?" Marcus looked up at the assembled representatives of 7 star systems, beings who could manipulate matter with thought, who possessed hive mind intelligence, who had mastered technologies beyond human comprehension, beings who were now looking at him with something they'd never experienced before. "I'm what happens when a species evolves not as the strongest or the fastest or the smartest," he said quietly, "but as the most stubborn. We're persistence predators, Commander. We don't win fights by being better. We win by refusing to lose." He gestured to his unconscious opponents. "Your warriors are superior to humans in every measurable way, but they've never fought something that just keeps coming." The dome fell completely silent as the implications sank in. Humanity wasn't asking to join the Galactic Alliance as supplicants or junior partners. They were announcing their arrival as something far more unsettling. They were announcing themselves as equals who had evolved to never, ever give up. As medical teams rushed to tend to the fallen warriors, Commander Vexthol found himself reconsidering humanity's probationary status. Perhaps it was time to discuss full membership after all, before the other species learned what humans were really capable of when they felt truly threatened.